Community Hotline is made possible with generous support by the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission. The Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission advocates on behalf of the public interest on communications policy issues at the local, state, and federal levels.
Hi, and welcome back to Community Hotline. I'm Monica Weitzel. We're here in Gresham at MetroEast Community Media. And now we're going to continue our discussion about youth and schools and how we can help them to succeed. Today we're going to be talking with Reynolds School District, and here to represent the school district we have Stacy Tallis, a principal of Reynolds Middle School. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And Lonnie Jackson, you are the Diversity and Support Empowerment Specialist. Mouthful.
Yes, it is.
At Reynolds. And so you're with Reynolds School District.
Yes,
then.
I am.
Are you specifically with Reynolds Middle School, or do you support other schools in the district as well?
I support other schools in the district.
Okay.
I work at Reynolds, a fair amount of the time, but I also work at some of the other elementary schools, middle schools, and also spend some time at the high school.
Okay, great. It's great to have that. It's one of those positions that's newer than some of the others, and it's really important. So what I've been hearing is that there have been issues at Reynolds as well as other schools with kids not succeeding. They're not making it through to graduation. They're having issues, behavioral issues, and end up being suspended or expelled, and that there has been work done to try to turn those trends around. Is that basically right?
Absolutely.
So why did Reynolds Middle School decide to focus on reducing? I mean, it's kind of obvious, but what were the reasons that drove you to try to reduce those issues?
I think, first and foremost, we're wanting to serve every student. Mm-hmm. We've become increasingly more diverse over time, and we realized there were groups that, if we looked at discipline, it was pretty inequitable. There were subgroups, we'll call them, that we were disproportionately represented in disciplinary data.
Right, and that kind of goes across a whole lot of areas besides just school. You'll see that, and how do you address that issue? What has been done, Lonnie? As far you were probably brought in to help with some of that, I assume. Right. And what did the school do to try to address those issues?
Well, I think, like Stacy had shared, I think the first thing is to recognize that we do have disparities when we look at discipline, and a lot of the disparities too exist with a lot of our students of color. And I think the reality of it is that one of the ways we are looking at reducing it is what can we do collectively to do it. Recognize that it's not just about, punishment, but looking at what are other options we have to really support and empower and motivate and have the type of programs and services that can really meet the needs of all students and help create a level playing field where all students have opportunities to be successful. And I believe it's also, in terms of looking at the data, it's about reducing discipline, but it's also about helping to ensure that we're raising achievement levels, because we have disparities also across achievement levels as well. So I think particularly at Reynolds Middle School, I think one thing with Principal Tallis in particular with his leadership, and it starts at the top with Superintendent Linda Florence and Cabinet, that they're working to create environments, and an environment at Reynolds Middle School that's welcoming, that values diversity, that values inclusion, and also looking at different ways to connect with students so that students themselves see the need to make meaningful changes and the value of getting an education.
Those are good points. And when you say start at the top, I think that's probably key, because part of it, I'm guessing, would have to do with educating the educators. How to connect and how to work with kids of all different backgrounds to help them all achieve, because there's such a diversity of backgrounds and of economic, socio backgrounds and the ethnic backgrounds and their cultural background, and there's just so many variables. It would be hard. I think it'd be a hard as heck job to be an educator.
I would say our kids are great. Our kids are fantastic, but You know, to your point, recognizing that my background, what I come from, is not the same. It's not, you know, my perspective is not the universal one, and I think it is about meeting kids where they are. Lonnie made a really good point too. I think sometimes as we work to reduce disproportionality, first of all, there's no magic fix to this. It takes time, you know. But the other piece, it's not just about reducing disproportionality related to discipline. It is about closing the achievement gap.
Right.
And reducing that disproportionality as a vehicle to keeping kids in class. You know, our thinking is we have great teachers, and we have every confidence that we can eliminate achievement gaps if we can keep kids in class.
Right, and that's sometimes the hardest part, is just keeping them in class. So what do you say to people that, you know, say, well, you know, if there are behavior problems and they need to be, you know, out of the classroom, and that maybe you need to lower the standards or whatever? I mean, how do you get them to understand that, you know, that really we have to keep those achievement levels high?
Well, and that is exactly right. It is not about manipulating data, if you will. It is not a situation where we've ever said we're not going to hold kids accountable. You know, but I would also say this: I worked for a principal who made a decade ago who said this, and I didn't agree with her at the time, but I have very much come to agree with this way of thinking. And that was, we're trying to change behavior. We're not trying to punish. We're trying to change the behavior of the kids. You know, and accountability is part of that. But and we're trying to eliminate, you know, repeat or recidivist behavior.
Right,
you know?
right. Well, and then that, you know, a lot of that, you know, kids that get into trouble in school a lot of times, if they're not supported and find their path with the support from above, you know, a lot of times those kids end up being part of the justice system, and then, you know, that just becomes a way of life. So, you know, give them the help now. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do, and I think that like Principal Tallis, you know, shared, I think that we've got more buy-in from RMS, Reynolds Middle School teachers and staff, that even though you have to have structure and we want to have accountability, but really when we are even looking at discipline, it's about helping students to also learn, you know, learn from the discipline, you know, so that they can understand, you know, a lot better and grow. And so I think, and at the same time, by learning, you come up with discipline that's also equitable and fair, you know, to try to get the discipline to sometimes match, you know, maybe what the offense was, and also make the discipline hopefully an opportunity from the student to learn from that. So I think it's about, you know, getting, you know, buy-in, where we're not saying, I think, sacrificing, you know, structure or accountability or not having levels of discipline, but it's saying it's a way of looking at it to where it's about changing behavior and having students have opportunities when they do make mistakes or having a bad day or having behavioral problems. How do we, you know, hold them accountable in ways that we can have them learn, you know, by you know, their actions, from their actions.
How has the response been from parents in doing this work? I mean, do you get pushback from parents saying, no, I think, you know, kids should be disciplined more stringently, or do you get good feedback from parents whose kids have been helped along the way?
You know, I would say a little bit of both. I would say, though, that most, you know, parents want their kids to be successful. Bottom line,
they do. Yeah.
Regardless of background, parents want their kids to be successful, and I think we are. I think the idea that we're supporting kids, trying to change behavior as needed, support them, is much more well received than just kicking kids out of school at the risk of stereotype.
Yeah, because what really does that accomplish?
Yeah.
Not a darn thing that I can think of. So you brought a video, and at the end of this segment, we're going to cut this segment a little short because this video is really powerful, and I really think that everybody should take a look at it. So after we're done here, we'll just run the credits, and then if people would stay watching, we're going to run this whole video. It's about 7 minutes, and it's about a young man named Corey, correct? And did you know Corey? You know Corey? And so would this be pretty representative of the kind of student that you've worked with and the response that you've gotten from some of the students? Would you say he's?
Well, I would say that Corey is a student that, because I remember, you know, first meeting Corey was in the 6th grade, and he was a kid that was struggling. You know, he was having, you know, challenges academically, challenges some with his behavior, anger, but I've seen progress. But I think a lot of the progress is, again, is because of investment. I think people really invested in working with Corey, helping him see other options to deal with his anger, but really it comes down to teachers and staff also, and him, seeing people cared about him, people believed in him, people saw that he had potential, and really working to help him navigate through some of those challenges he was having. Some of the challenges he was having sometimes with making poor choices, also sometimes with with other students who were getting into trouble with him. So I think the video really shows kind of an evolution of a young man that has made progress based on a lot of work. And this, like Stacy shared, this is hard work. This is grinding work. It didn't happen overnight. I think it came down a lot to having tough talk, real talk with Stacy in ways that was relevant to his life, to his life experiences, to impacts he was having maybe outside of school. But at the end, I think it's about hope. It's about this young man starting to see hope for the future and starting to see that, you know, I can be productive, I can be successful, but there's a process that I have to start doing and engaging in and taking ownership of to start beginning the work of getting there. And I think Corey's story hopefully helps showcase some of that.
Yeah, I agree. And we're just about out of time here, so I agree. I think every child has potential, every student has potential, but to try to find the way to connect with them and help them realize that is really important. I think it sounds like you're making a great start on doing that, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And thank you both for being here today. We're going to go and show a few credits. We'll show the video, so everybody stay tuned. And I hope that all the students like Corey have much success. So thank you. Let's go ahead and get to that now.
Hotline is made possible with generous support by the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission. The Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission advocates on behalf of the public interest on communications policy issues at the local, state, and federal levels.
Today's gonna be a good day. Don't let no one get in that way, you know? That's how I think on the bus, and just stay on track and do better. I'm in 8th grade and my name is Corey. I'm 13, I'm about to turn 14.
And middle school is a challenging time for students. Kids are changing physically, socially, emotionally. They're still kids, but they start to look like adults.
Physical changes in body and brain and social pressures, and there's just so many things coming at students of this age.
It's really an important time, an important stage, because really middle school is what's going to lay the foundation for their future success in high school and beyond.
Like what happened last year was just, it was a group of certain people, and my group of people, and we was just going at it for a long time. It was over something small, honestly. It's just like, I could have thought better, but I just had to act. The foolishness needs to stop. And I'm actually like, I mean, I could say I'm proud of myself, but I have more goals to work on and stuff, so I just can't say this is the big step for me, but in the future, I can see more.
Part of what I like to do when working with students like Corey in collaboration with others is help him, again, navigate through some of that, help him understand how important it is, even at this stage, to make good choices.
One of the things that I've delighted in watching the growth of Corey is last year he had a really hard time with authority. He did not know how to handle necessarily. He took it as a personal challenge to him. That is slowly drifting away, and I see him switching his mindset to taking direction as, oh, that's part of the process that's going to get me to where I want to go. He definitely sees bigger and better things for himself.
That thing I used to do, like when I was mad, I used to just take it out on everybody, like, just like, oh, leave me alone, stuff like that. But like me, if I'm mad, like, I don't try to take my anger out on people like I used to. I just be calm and be cordial.
The idea of all of, wraparound support services coming together in concert, I think we have a much better chance at really getting at what the individual kid needs. Again, it's not a one-size-fits-all model.
The community or when the school takes the wraparound approach and focuses on individual students, and we look at it from look at that particular student from all angles and what they need and what they want. I just feel like that's the only way to do education anymore.
Basically, it has to be a collaborative effort. The school's role is hopefully to provide the educational students with their educational opportunities to help them be successful in school. But schools can't do it by themselves. Schools need support. They need parents to be involved and engaged. They need the business community, the private sector. It's going to take all of us working together to provide the levels of support that our students and our youth need to have greater opportunities to be successful with their lives.
I spend a lot of days where I'm praying and I'm hoping, like, oh man, I hope what I am instilling in him that he's using. So for me to know that he comes to school and he has that support from Lonnie and Stacy Tallish, makes me feel a little better, because I'm like, okay, it's coming from me. Then when he goes out into the community, people, they're instilling good things in him too,
One of the things that's come up, and I think this is a direct result of our partnership with All Hands Raised, is we look at discipline data related to race.
And I think when we're looking at equity, it's about being able to ensure every student has a level playing field. Every student has the opportunity to be a successful learner.
And so having additional resources, especially when it focuses on individual needs, helps us to provide that unique care for each student.
I really believe that the work that All Hands Raised is doing is critical in terms of continuing to move us forward. I think there's been progress, no doubt, that's been made, but I'm looking to even greater progress as we continue to look at data, as we continue to work collaboratively on different ways that we can make a positive impact on all students.
Corey is a microcosm for what we're doing with a lot of kids, and what's really heartening is to see our disciplinary referrals drop precipitously as they have, but more specifically that qualitatively we're changing the lives of some kids for the better, and hopefully our most marginalized at-risk kids, we're changing their lives for the better, setting them up for success in high school and beyond.
This work is the most rewarding work of all. So whenever I see a student like Corey, he's still going to have his days. He's going to have his good days. He's going to have sometimes not so good days. But I know I've seen that spark. And I know I've seen his heart in a lot of different ways. And I know he has the potential to achieve positive outcomes in his life. That is what drives me. And I think that's what drives all of us that do this work.
He's a loving kid, and, I'm just thankful that he's headed down the right track now. And I pray and hope that he continues.
It's actually shocking to me, honestly, is that some people say I have a good heart and some people say I don't, but when people say I got a good heart, it makes me feel good though.